Welcome back to another quick access tutorial here today. Today's tutorial is going to cover the access reports, and all essentially reports are a way to create a more visually appealing and easier to read set of data. So for example, here I have my custom or my sample database here. And so needing to look at some of the data that we have here. So for example, here on employees, one thing that I could do here is group or create a report here that shows each employee within each state. And I think that would be a pretty good starting example here. So again, I go up to this create button here, and in my report section here, I always follow the report wizard. And so here we can go ahead and choose what data that we want to bring in. Now we can go ahead and choose from tables and queries. Depending on what we're trying to show, we can bring in tables and queries together. So if there's specific data that's on one table that's connected to a query, and we want to bring in both sets of data, we can do so. For this simple one that I'm going to show here, I'm just going to use my employees because we are going to go ahead and list them and group them by state. So I'm not going to necessarily need the address and city because we just want to go ahead and group them by state. And then we collect the rest of their contact information, hire date, salary, department, and so on and so forth. So I don't necessarily need to know their exact street that they live on or the city that they live on. So if I go ahead and click next here, now this next step here is about grouping. So what do we want to group the data by? And in this report, I'm trying to go ahead and group them by the state that they live in. So if I go ahead and click on state here and then move over, you can now see that we're going to go ahead and group by state, and then we'll have the rest of this data that's here. So I can go ahead and click next. And maybe I want to go ahead and put them in ascending order by last name so that they're in alphabetical order. So again, depending on what we want to put them in by, I could do descending order for their salary. So whoever makes the most will be listed at the top and then descend down. For this example here, I'm just going to go ahead and click ascending. If we go ahead and go next, we can leave it as stepped and portrait. And then next, and we can go ahead and click finish. So here we can see this report. Here's my state. Last name is in descending order. We have our employee IDs, phone numbers. Now their hire date, you can see that the data is truncated. So that means that we're going to need to go ahead and modify this design. So that way we can actually read the whole value. Same with salary here, it's a little cut off. So how we can do that is if we close out of our print preview and we automatically go into our design view. So the way that we can modify some of this detail section on this is where our records are going to show. Up here, these are just like our column headers. So if we need to, we can go ahead and highlight both and just kind of move them over a little bit here. So, and same thing if we need to like reposition. So say I want my employee number to show up first, which I think yep, there we go. So I was able to go ahead and get the first name and last name and just kind of move them over. Again, this is just so that way it's going to be easier to read. And now we can go down here and widen our hire date. And if we really need to, go ahead and just really just kind of move this category over just a little bit more. Our state being just an abbreviation, we don't need a ton of room for it. But we can kind of pull some of these over just a little bit. We can actually just shorten these two if we wanted to, so that way it is a little bit easier to kind of navigate some of this. And bring our phone number over a little bit. Bring our hire date over just a smidge. because then too, we need to go ahead and widen our salary. So if we go ahead and we take a look at this, there we go. We still have one date that isn't able to be fully read, so we still need to go in and modify just a little bit. You can see actually how much gap that we have here. So it's just kind of a little tedious process here now to just go in and figure out exactly how wide that it is. And so that's pretty easy. In order to set up some of these reports, we can go into and change. So say we wanted to identify which employees were making, I don't know, let's say over 150,000. We can go into our design view here and we can click on this salary here in the detail one. And then under format, we can add some conditional formatting to where we add a new rule. And then we can leave this up here. The field expression or field value is greater than. And if we're saying 150,000, maybe we want to go ahead and fill it in with a light green or something along those lines. Maybe bold it. I don't know. But now this would then allow us to go ahead and click apply, click OK. We don't see anything that happens here because we're just adding conditional formatting to the data itself. So if we switch over to design view, here we can now see which employees make over a certain dollar amount. We can do a lot of this. Again, we can do it with criteria as well within our queries. So if you actually went into your employees query here, we could actually go in. We can actually set, if we go into design view here, we can add some of this criteria to the data as well. I'm drawing a blank right now. But we can also filter the numbers so that they're greater. So in this query, we really only show those as well. So we can modify some in this way. We can do it in our forms as well. We can add the conditional formatting to forms. But for the most part, it's really just easiest to go ahead and do it in the design view. And same thing in design view, we can modify this and brand it for our company just like we did in our forms. We can group by multiple categories if we wanted to. So if we wanted to do, say if we wanted to do by state first and then by department, we could go ahead and do that as well. So then it would list Illinois accounting department, list all the employees underneath for accounting, and then it would do sales and then list all of our sales. So if you're working in a large organization, that may be an easier way to read exactly how many employees that you have in each section. So that's just a quick little blurb about reports. So if you're having questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.